Let's face it, few things in life spark as much debate as your morning cup of coffee. One day it's hailed as a superfood. The next, it's feared like a slow-acting poison. For decades, even doctors couldn't agree. You've heard it all. It raises your blood pressure, it stresses your heart, it's bad for your liver, it might even cause cancer. And yet for millions of us, especially those over 50, that first warm sip of coffee is more than just a habit. It's a ritual. It's the reason we get out of bed some mornings. But here's the good news. A wave of groundbreaking research, including a massive new human trial, is finally bringing clarity to the confusion. Not hype, not trends, science. In fact, the very things we once feared about coffee, its effects on the heart, the liver, and even cancer risk, are now being flipped on their head. And today, we're going to walk through those discoveries together, one cup at a time. I'm going to show you what's myth, what's medicine, and what to be careful about. Because yes, coffee can protect your heart. It can lower your risk of liver disease. It can reduce your chance of dying from multiple causes, but only if you drink it the right way, at the right time, and in the right form. If you've ever felt conflicted about your relationship with coffee, or been told to give it up for your health, this video will be your roadmap. One that's evidence-based, empowering, and practical for real life. Type 1 in the comments if you've ever questioned whether coffee was helping or hurting you, or 0 if you've just been sipping and hoping for the best. Alright, let's get started. Let's clear the confusion. Let's separate fear from fact. Let's dive in with number 1. The Great Coffee Controversy. Why everyone's been confused. Few drinks in human history have stirred up more debate than coffee. It's been loved, feared, praised, and blamed, sometimes all in the same sentence. One day, it's a brain-boosting superfood. The next, it's a supposed ticket to heart disease. And if you've ever felt torn about whether your morning brew is helping or hurting you, you're not alone. For decades, coffee sat squarely in the middle of the health crossfire. Concerns mounted over its caffeine content, its acidity, and its stimulant effect on the nervous system. Doctors warned patients with heart palpitations to steer clear. Nutritionists questioned its role in raising cholesterol. And perhaps most alarmingly, in 1991, the World Health Organization listed coffee as a Group 2B possible carcinogen, loosely suggesting it might contribute to certain cancers. That label alone created panic, especially among older adults who were already battling multiple health concerns. Suddenly, coffee wasn't just a drink, it was a risk. But science, when it's done right, evolves. Researchers dug deeper. Studies became more refined, larger sample sizes, better controls, and more long-term data painted a different picture. And in 2016, the WHO officially reversed its position, stating that there was no conclusive evidence linking coffee to cancer. In fact, they acknowledged that earlier fears were likely due to confounding variables like smoking, not the coffee itself. Still, confusion remained. What about blood pressure? What about liver strain? What about irregular heart rhythms? Well, that's where things start to get really interesting, because a wave of new research, plus a massive clinical trial involving high-risk heart patients, has completely changed the game. Let's move to number 2. Coffee and your heart. The myth that refused to die. For years, coffee has lived under a dark cloud when it comes to heart health. The fear was simple and persistent. Caffeine raises blood pressure, speeds up your heart rate, and might even trigger dangerous rhythms. Especially in older adults, that idea took root and stayed. Patients recovering from heart attacks were routinely told to switch to decaf or quit coffee altogether, as if it were on par with cigarettes or trans fats. But was that advice truly grounded in science? Not entirely. In fact, recent research has flipped the entire narrative. A massive cohort study involving more than 80,000 women over 24 years found that those who drank 2 to 3 cups of coffee a day had a 19% lower risk of stroke compared to non-coffee drinkers. that's not just a neutral effect, it's protective. Another UK study involving over 300,000 adults showed that 3 to 5 cups of coffee a day was associated with a lower risk of death from heart disease. And for those who had already experienced a heart attack, even they did better when coffee was part of their routine. According to a Swedish study that followed survivors for 8 years, coffee drinkers had a 40% lower risk of dying from heart-related issues. So why the confusion? Part of it comes down to how coffee affects people in the short term. Yes, caffeine can cause a temporary spike in blood pressure, but for habitual drinkers, that effect fades over time. In fact, the body adapts and blood pressure normalizes. The long-term result? More stable vessels, better circulation, and less cardiovascular risk. Take Alan, for example, a 67-year-old retired pilot who came into my clinic years ago after a mild heart scare. His cardiologist told him to cut out coffee cold turkey. He did, and quickly found his mornings dull, his energy low, and his mood flat. Eventually, after reviewing the latest evidence and monitoring his vitals, we reintroduced filtered coffee in moderation. Within weeks, he felt sharper, more motivated, and best of all, his heart rhythm remained steady, his blood pressure even improved. But that word filtered matters, because not all coffee is created equal. Research shows that unfiltered coffee, like French press or Turkish brew, allows compounds called cafestol and kaweol to remain. These can raise LDL cholesterol levels, a real concern if left unchecked. On the other hand, filtered coffee, the kind made through drip machines or using paper filters, traps those compounds and delivers the benefits without the downside. So if you're someone with heart concerns, the takeaway is clear. You don't need to fear coffee, you just need to understand how to drink it wisely. Let's dive into number 3. The new clinical trial. Coffee in people with heart conditions. Now this is where the conversation around coffee and heart health truly shifts. Because we're not just talking about the general population anymore. We're talking about people who already have serious heart conditions. The very group that's long been told, no more coffee for you. Specifically, we're talking about patients diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, a type of irregular heartbeat that affects millions of older adults. It's not just an electrical issue, it's a major stroke risk. When your heart's rhythm is erratic, blood flow slows, clots can form, and those clots can travel to the brain. This is why atrial fibrillation is so feared and why caution around stimulants like caffeine has been the default response for many doctors. But a new clinical trial just changed everything. This study divided people with atrial fibrillation into 2 groups, daily coffee drinkers and those who rarely or never drank coffee. Over time, researchers tracked major cardiovascular outcomes, specifically looking for strokes, heart failure, and deaths caused by heart complications. The results? Daily coffee drinkers had a 23% lower risk of experiencing these severe events. That's not a minor blip. That's a powerful protective effect in a group most likely to suffer from heart-related issues. This flies in the face of decades of cautious advice. And it forces us, as clinicians and as patients, to re-examine the assumptions we've carried about caffeine. Because when even high-risk hearts are showing measurable benefit, the narrative must change. It's time to stop demonizing coffee by default and start personalizing the guidance. For many older adults, yes, even those with a diagnosis like atrial fibrillation, moderate filtered coffee could be not just safe, but actually helpful. So if your doctor once told you to ditch your daily cup without a second thought, it might be worth revisiting that conversation, armed with the latest science. Let's move to number 4, coffee and cancer, turning the tide. For years, one of the most unsettling fears around coffee wasn't just about your heart, it was about cancer. Specifically that your morning brew might be quietly increasing your risk of deadly diseases like pancreatic or prostate cancer. In fact, back in 1991, the World Health Organization officially classified coffee as a possible carcinogen. That label lingered in the public consciousness for decades, casting a long shadow over something millions of people drink every single day. But science, when done right, evolves, and so should our thinking. Fast forward to today, and the story has dramatically changed. In 2016, the WHO reversed its position, stating clearly that coffee is not associated with cancer risk. But it didn't stop there. Researchers dug deeper, using more precise tools, better study designs, and far larger populations. And what they found was astonishing. A meta-analysis of 28 large-scale studies showed that higher coffee consumption was actually linked to a lower risk of several types of cancer, most notably liver cancer and endometrial cancer. That's right, lower, not higher. How is that possible? It turns out coffee is far more complex than we once thought. It's not just caffeine in a cup, it's a rich blend of antioxidants, polyphenols, and anti-inflammatory compounds. These bioactive substances can help fight oxidative stress, reduce chronic inflammation, a known driver of cancer, and even support liver detoxification, which plays a huge role in processing potential carcinogens. And here's something even more encouraging. In 2023, an extensive review of global cancer data found no strong evidence linking coffee to increased risk for any major cancer type. Not one. On the contrary, the evidence tilted toward protective effects across several categories. So the question is no longer, is coffee safe when it comes to cancer? The question is, how soon can it become part of your prevention strategy? Let's dive into number 5. The liver loves coffee. Why it's a natural cleanser. If there's one organ that quietly bears the brunt of modern life, processed food, medications, alcohol, environmental toxins, it's your liver. And yet, few people realize just how powerful a daily cup of coffee can be in protecting it. The evidence here isn't soft, it's solid and growing. Multiple large-scale studies have shown that regular coffee consumption is linked to a significantly lower risk of chronic liver disease, including cirrhosis, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NFLD, and even liver cancer. One UK biobank study involving nearly 500,000 people over an 11-year span found that coffee drinkers had a 49% lower risk of death from liver disease compared to non-drinkers. That's not a coincidence. That's biology in action. So what's happening inside the liver? Coffee, especially black coffee, contains compounds that activate key detoxification enzymes in the liver. Caffeine, chlorogenic acids, and other polyphenols work together to reduce fat accumulation, improve insulin sensitivity, and decrease inflammation. All critical processes in fighting NAFLD and other liver-related issues. Think of coffee as a mild daily nudge that keeps the liver's cleanup crew on task. Real-life proof? Let me tell you about Emma, 59, one of my longtime patients. She was diagnosed with early-stage fatty liver disease. Her ALT and AST numbers were creeping higher, and she felt chronically sluggish. After adopting a few dietary changes and adding 2 cups of black coffee to her morning routine, her liver enzymes normalized within 6 months. More energy, better sleep, a clean bill of health at her next checkup. This isn't rare. We're now seeing doctors, including hepatologists, recommend moderate coffee intake as part of liver care protocols. As one physician recently put it, coffee is no longer neutral, it's medicinal, if you use it wisely. Let's move to number 6. 3. Important warnings. Don't let coffee backfire. By now, it's clear that coffee, when used wisely, can act like a natural medicine. But like any medicine, misuse can quietly undo the benefits. And for many people, especially those over 60, the way you drink coffee matters just as much as the fact that you drink it. So let's break down 3 key warnings to make sure your daily cup works for you, not against you. Warning number 1. Timing matters. Caffeine isn't a switch, it's a slow burner. The average half-life of caffeine is about 5 hours, meaning that half of it is still circulating in your body long after your last sip. After 10 hours, 25% remains. And even if you can fall asleep at night, caffeine can still disrupt deep sleep, the kind that helps your brain detox, repair, and restore memory function. The best strategy? Enjoy your last cup of coffee within 4 hours of waking. For most people, that means having coffee with or just after breakfast. This timing supports alertness during your natural circadian peak, while avoiding the evening sleep sabotage many people never realize is caused by a late afternoon latte. Warning number 2. Filters are not optional. Many coffee drinkers love French press, espresso, or Turkish-style brews. But there's a hidden downside. Unfiltered coffee contains diterpenes, compounds like cafestol and caweol, which have been shown to raise LDL cholesterol levels. In fact, drinking unfiltered coffee daily can raise LDL by 8 to 10 points or more. That's not a minor issue, especially for seniors managing cardiovascular health. The fix? Use a paper filter. Whether it's a drip machine, pour-over cone, or single-serve filter, these simple tools trap harmful compounds while allowing beneficial polyphenols and antioxidants to pass through. Filtered coffee keeps the good and removes the bad, just like your liver wants it. Warning number 3. Additives undermine benefits. Black coffee is metabolically neutral. But start adding sugar, flavored syrups, and heavy cream, and the story changes dramatically. Sugary coffee drinks are a leading hidden source of empty calories, blood sugar spikes, and inflammation. And research shows that while black coffee is associated with healthy weight and cardiovascular benefits, coffee with sugar is linked to weight gain and metabolic disruption. If you need to lighten your cup, opt for unsweetened plant-based milk or a dash of cinnamon. Cinnamon adds flavor, balances blood sugar, and supports insulin sensitivity, especially helpful for those managing prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. So here's the bottom line. Coffee can heal, but it can also harm, depending on how you brew it, when you drink it, and what you put in it. Let's move to number 7, the sleep connection. Why afternoon coffee may age you. We often think of sleep as rest, but biologically sleep is repair, especially for your brain. Every night, your brain goes through cycles of light, deep, and REM sleep. And it's during deep sleep that the body performs some of its most essential maintenance tasks. Clearing metabolic waste, resetting insulin sensitivity, and consolidating memory. And that's where caffeine can quietly sabotage your health. Even if you fall asleep easily after an afternoon cup, your body may not be reaching the deeper stages of sleep, the very ones that keep your mind sharp and your blood sugar balanced. Studies using EEG brainwave monitoring have shown that caffeine reduces slow-wave sleep, the most restorative phase, even when it doesn't feel like it's interfering with sleep. This is where the long half-life of caffeine becomes more than just chemistry trivia. Let's say you have your last cup of coffee at 3 p.m. By 8 p.m., half of that caffeine is still circulating in your blood. And by bedtime, a quarter of it remains, just enough to blunt deep sleep and block the brain's glymphatic system, which is responsible for flushing out beta amyloid, a waste protein linked to Alzheimer's disease. But the consequences go beyond memory. Poor sleep quality, worsened by afternoon caffeine, leads to higher morning blood sugar, increased cravings, irritability, and reduced insulin sensitivity, all of which accelerate aging at the cellular level. So here's the recommendation I give to my patients, especially those over 60. Stop caffeine by 11 a.m. This gives your body time to metabolize the stimulant and allows your sleep cycles to reset fully by nightfall. Think of it this way. Coffee is a tool for mental sharpness, but it should never come at the expense of long-term clarity. Let's move to number 8. How much is too much? The safe daily dose. By now we know coffee can do wonders for your heart, brain, and liver. But like any natural medicine, the dose makes the difference. So what's the sweet spot? According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, 400 milligrams of caffeine per day is considered the safe upper limit for most healthy adults. But for seniors, especially those over 60, dealing with slower metabolism, sleep fragility, or medication interactions, the optimal range is a bit lower. I recommend 2 to 3 standard cups per day, which delivers between 200 to 300 milligrams of caffeine, enough to support alertness, antioxidant activity, and metabolic benefits without tipping into overstimulation or insomnia. But here's where it gets tricky. Not all coffee is created equal. 1 cup of drip-brewed coffee, 8 oz, can range from 80 to 140 milligrams of caffeine. Espresso may seem small, but a single shot often packs 60 to 75 milligrams. And instant coffee? That can fall anywhere between 30 to 90 milligrams, depending on the brand. So if you're drinking a 16-ounce cafe blend, thinking it's just 1 cup, you might actually be downing twice the caffeine you think. It's also important to factor in personal sensitivity. Some people metabolize caffeine quickly and tolerate higher doses. Others, especially those with certain genetic variants, heart rhythm issues, or anxiety disorders, may experience jitters, digestive upset, or poor sleep, even with lower amounts. My rule of thumb? If you're sleeping well, digesting smoothly, and feel clear, not wired, after your morning cup, you're in the right zone. But if you find yourself tossing and turning, or needing coffee just to feel normal, it might be time to reassess. Not your coffee, but your overall caffeine timing and dosage. Let's move to number 9. Making coffee work for you. Smart habits for seniors. You now know coffee isn't just safe, it's surprisingly therapeutic. But to unlock its full benefits, especially after 60, how you drink it matters just as much as whether you drink it at all. This is where smart habits come in. Tiny tweaks that can transform your morning cup from a rushed routine into a nourishing ritual. Let's start with preparation. Skip the cream and sugar. Not only do they spike blood sugar and cancel out coffee's cardiovascular perks, but they can also turn a healthful habit into a metabolic stressor. Instead, try black coffee with a sprinkle of cinnamon, a natural blood sugar stabilizer. Or if you're easing off caffeine in the afternoon, opt for a half-calf blend with unsweetened oat milk, which offers a creamy texture without lactose or added fat. Sensitive to caffeine? You're not alone. Many seniors find that decaf or Swiss water processed coffee still gives them the ritual without the racing heart. Now let's talk about what you eat with it. Avoid drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Doing so, especially first thing in the morning, can spike cortisol, aggravate acid reflux, or trigger a jittery crash by mid-morning. Instead, pair it with a high-fiber, protein-rich breakfast. Think oats with chia seeds and berries, or a slice of whole grain toast with avocado and a soft-boiled egg. The fiber slows absorption, the protein supports muscle, and the combo keeps your energy steady for hours. And here's a morning ritual I often recommend to patients. Brew your coffee, then go for a 10-minute walk. Let sunlight hit your face and stretch your legs. When you return, sit down with your cup and a journal. Jot down 3 things you're grateful for. It sounds simple, but it trains your mind to shift from autopilot to intention, from survival to vitality. Because at this stage of life, you're not just managing habits, you're curating your legacy. And every mindful cup brings you one step closer. Let's bring it all home. Coffee isn't the villain. It's the ritual that matters. For decades, coffee wore a cloak of suspicion. It was blamed for everything from high blood pressure to heart attacks to sleepless nights. But here's the truth. Science has finally revealed coffee was never the problem. Misuse, misunderstanding, and misinformation were. When you drink it wisely, coffee becomes something more than a beverage. It becomes a ritual of clarity, a small act of care that ripples into the rest of your day. For seniors especially, this daily habit can support cognitive sharpness, liver health, mood, metabolism, and even reduce heart disease risk. That's not a miracle. That's biology, guided by awareness. But none of this means you need to guzzle pot after pot. The message isn't more. It's mindful. It's about how you enjoy coffee, when you enjoy it, and what you add to it. It's about why you pause, sip, and connect to yourself through something simple and grounding. So let go of the fear. The controversy is over. You don't need to abandon your morning cup. You just need to honor it. Now it's your turn. How do you take your coffee? Black, creamy, cinnamon spiced, or herbal decaf? Comment below and tell us your favorite way to enjoy it, because your ideas might inspire someone else to build a healthier habit too. And if you found value in today's video, subscribe to Be Healthy Seniors for more evidence-based tips on protecting your heart, your mind, and your energy as you age with grace. Because coffee won't save your life, but how you drink it just might.